Hey! Welcome to All In with Shauna Barton today. We're so excited to get to know her better. She's a dear friend, so this is going to be fun. Here's Shauna Barton.
So I have 3 kids. My oldest, Matthew, is almost 21. He just got back from his mission from Colombia. My daughter, Marissa, she is 18 and right now lives in St. George, and then Sammy is 13, and she's at Fort Herman. My husband and I have been married almost 25 years this next March, and he is a vice principal over at Mountain Ridge High School, and that's us. Go into family history, and I'd always had like a weird connection with it that since I was little, I just always wanted to know my family. And so I decided that was going to be my degree, so I went and got my family history research degree, and I finished up right during COVID, and then there wasn't any jobs available because of COVID, so I was like, well, that's on the back burner for now, so that will be my eventual goal. I would just say for me, the most exciting thing about it is just their stories, that these people were real and they came from real life situations and they had trials just like all of us, and it makes them really real when I get to learn stuff like that about them. So my grandma's always been a hero to me, but I grew up with her. I didn't not know her, but once she died and I was helping to clean out her house, there was so much more I learned about her. She actually grew up in Hollywood. My great-grandmother was a musician. She wrote music for movies in Hollywood. So my grandma grew up among all of that, and I didn't learn that till after she died. So for me, that was like really neat because she didn't get caught up in Hollywood. I don't know, she became my hero just because she was such a big support for me. I grew up in a very abusive home, and both my parents were very abusive, and my dad left when I was 9. I was the youngest of 5 kids. And by the time I was 14, I was the only one living at home because my siblings had left. They were kind of just done. So I was left to kind of take care of my mom. My sister came and taught me how to do taxes when I was 15, so I could start doing her taxes for her. And my brother came and taught me how to balance a checkbook, so I learned that when I was about 14, and I just kind of became an adult when I was really young. And so I learned a lot of skills. That was good to learn, but there was also a lot of like frustration with that for me. We're now where she's doing so much better, and we have a really good relationship now. So. When I was 12 years old, my mom set up a meeting where I got to meet President Monson. I got to go to his office, and we spent the entire day together. We played the piano together. He told me stories of when he was a little kid, and so that was really, really cool to me. And then years later, state conference, and while he was speaking, he started telling this story, you know how he likes to tell stories, and he starts telling this story about this 12-year-old girl that came to his office, and he totally remembered me, and I was just like, how many years was that ago? So through all the abuse, of course, I needed to go get some counseling for it. And when I started going to counseling, I learned that I needed to get myself to the point where I could forgive my dad. I knew that for myself I had to do it in order to get better to become a better person. And through my teenage years, I went through a lot of counseling, and that was where I really can pinpoint my testimony really growing. I think I was about 16. I had a dream. In the dream, Christ was telling me that I had forgiven my dad and that I was ready to let go of that. That experience, of course, strengthened my testimony of Christ, and it taught me that the atonement was real, and that was where I learned about the atonement, was through that experience of having to forgive. So, well, it's just taught me that family is everything, and I mean, I had to rely a lot on my siblings to help me go through the struggles that I went through. So with my own family, I want the same thing for my kids. I just want them to feel like they have each other, and that's important to me, that they have those friendships. So probably just honesty is probably the biggest one. Just always relying on each other and not turning away from each other to deal with something that you're struggling with. Go to each other and deal with it together. And so for us, that's what we've always done. We first got married, we got a letter from President Monson. In the letter, the advice was to make sure, even when you're upset at each other or, maybe said things you didn't mean, make sure that you always go to bed and pray together before you go to bed. And that's something Kevin and I have always done. My testimony is very, very, very simple. It always has been. I've never had any doubts ever. I mean, even growing up and going through some awful experiences, it just never occurred to me that this might not be true. Helped me rely on the Savior. Have just taught me that that's the only way I'm going to get through motherhood. We know that he went through everything. It's kind of hard sometimes for me to imagine how that really went, but it's something I know for sure, that he went through everything. So any trial that I'm going through, I know he gets it. I have to go back to the basics for me. So when it comes to my kids, that's what I've had to really try to do, is just go back to the basics, and that's how he'll speak to me, and that's how he'll be there for me. It's just really basic. There was one time I was really frustrated, and I had been praying for several nights, please, just help me through this trial, or just let me know that you're there. And I wasn't feeling anything. And every night, I'd, be upset, crying about it. And every night, my dog would come and give me a little hug. And it occurred to me one night, and I know this is really weird, but that's how he was trying to answer me. He was giving me a little hug from my dog. So anyway, that's how he works for me, and I have to always make sure that I focus on it's little things that he does for me, but they end up being so huge. So I think it comes down to that it's simple for me again, because I can't imagine trying to raise my kids without this. I don't know how anyone would do it without the gospel and without Christ. I mean, it's impossible for me. So the peace for me only comes when things are simple, or when I think of it simply, because nothing's really simple. But when I break it down and keep it simple is when that peace comes. Something little usually, at least I still have hope. I mean, there's always hope. So for me, if it's that little, that's enough. So.